Hi, everyone. I'm Tammy Foreman. I'm the Executive Director of Path Forward. And I'm here today with some folks from Cloudflare. As Abby said, I'm really excited about this particular session. As you probably know, Path Forward is a nonprofit organization. We are on a mission to empower people who've taken time off for caregiving to restart their careers. We have an action-packed agenda today with folks from Cloudflare. So I'm not going to spend time in the beginning of today's webinar talking a lot about returnships generally, about Path Forward and some of the things I usually open with. So I want to just point out, you will get a follow-up message, you'll get these slides, you'll get the recording, all that great stuff. If you have questions about sort of how we work with companies in general, questions about returnships, these webinars, these are links to webinar recordings of the past, and particularly in our most recent one, the Recruiter Roundtable that we did with Allstate, Lattice, and Facebook. I spent a couple minutes at the beginning of that answering some like frequently asked questions. So if you get to the end of today's session and you feel like, I still want to know, check that out. I think it will be, I think you'll find it quite helpful. That said, you're going to get a lot of great information today about the program at Cloudflare. So before I open up with the Cloudflare team, I do want to underline the fact that we are a nonprofit organization. So if you have the means to support our work and help us to continue to expand opportunities and create more of these returnships and work with more great employers, please consider a modest donation. It's really true when nonprofit people tell you every bit matters, and small amounts add up really quickly. So if you have the means to do that, please consider it. But let's get going. I'm going to turn off the slides for a little bit because it's much more fun to see people's whole faces. And I'm going to open up with Janet. Janet, I'm going to let you say your last name because I seem to mess that up every time we speak together.
It is so much easier than it looks, Tammy. It's Van Heist, rhymes with ice. So you just have to ignore that you.
I see. I want to do something with that you. I want to do something. It feels like it needs to be in there somehow.
Yeah, ignore it. I don't know why it's there. Van Heist.
Janet Van Heist, Chief People Officer of Cloudflare. I'm so excited to have you on today's session because Cloudflare, as some people know, is our longest running employer partner. Cloudflare was part of the very first Path Forward, official Path Forward. We kind of had a prototype before, but the sort of official Path Forward banner program in California back in 2016, 5 years ago this year, Cloudflare, and has participated in every year since. Loyal, long-standing, so I'm super excited. And so my first question is, why us? Why do you keep doing this?
Okay, well, I want to just backtrack a little bit, Tammy, because Path Forward is the reason that I am at Cloudflare, right? And so I was reading about the 2016 launch in the West, the partnerships on the West Coast with technology companies and Path Forward, and I was so excited about Path Forward existing. And I thought, who are these innovative companies that realize that this is such an overlooked talent pool? And so, this is a really smart approach to hiring. And that's what got Cloudflare on my radar. So I'm always grateful for Path Forward because I am having the career of my dreams at Cloudflare. That's what we talk about, what we want everyone to have. And I credit Path Forward for that. So thank you personally.
You're so welcome.
And then, so we've been a part of the program from the very beginning. Since 2015. And like I said, it's been just a great access to a talent pool that I think typically gets overlooked by a lot of companies. And, we just had great success session after session, finding really awesome talent to bring onto our teams.
So what are some of the qualities that you think returners bring to Cloudflare? Right, especially we started working with you as kind of like a young, hip, it was all the things that, is a lot of the things. I remember thinking, it's an interesting company to be so innovative in this particular way.
Well, I think one of the things that's special about Cloudflare is, the founders are very long-term thinkers. So they're thinking, how am I going to build a highly admired, iconic company that's going to endure for generations? And they believe that one of the critical aspects of that is having a diverse workforce. So we believe that more diverse teams are more innovative, more diverse teams make better decisions, more diverse companies have better financial results, and more diverse companies are proven to be a better place to work for everyone that works there. And so when we think about path forward, we find that the returners bring diversity to our team, and a lot of it can be gender diversity, but that's not the only way we think about it too, but just having that experience of, having a number of years of career experience, then leaving the workforce and re-entering, and that kind of life experience that the returners are bringing to our teams. That's a level of diversity or an angle to diversity that we think really brings richness to our teams.
And how does this fit into your overall hiring and diversity goals and plans, and how you think about that?
So, I mean, I do believe that path forward, one of the big, big pluses is it does help with our gender diversity, but that's not the only place it fits in our talent strategy. For us, it's just really like another great access to another great talent pool, and that we are able to kind of meet people just like the folks on the webinar today when they're kind of early in their thinking about rejoining. And so be able to like come in and introduce them to Cloudflare and see what we're all about, be able to make a really great first impression. So while we definitely appreciate the diversity angle of path forward, really it's just access to great talent, great experienced talent.
I love that is my favorite answer. Like, that's just my favorite answer. I love that, right? Because we don't ever want to get rated. We don't want it to be about that piece of us. Like, that's like, there's so much more to all of us, and that net recognition of the talent and the skills that people bring is so important. So I'm going to ask you a final question, Janet. I'm throwing you a little curveball, but I think you can catch it for me. We got a lot of people on today. They're super excited. They're looking to go back to work. They are eagerly applying, as we saw in the poll. What's your advice to the people on today's session?
Throw your hat in the ring. That's my advice. And so one of the things we talk about this every time we talk about path forward, is one of the things that we learned as a company that I think has made this program really successful for us is we don't look at, okay, you're applying for this specific job. Are you a fit for that job? We look at a path forward resume and say, where could this person with all this great experience that they've had fit best at Cloudflare? And so we kind of turned our screening process upside down when it comes to looking at the returners and trying to place them at Cloudflare. So I would just say, throw your hat in the ring and really be open-minded to what a good fit or what a good next experience would be for you. I definitely found people who, one of my favorite returners, okay, I don't have favorites, but one of our most successful returners who's now leading a large team at Cloudflare, she applied for a role in the people team. And I looked at her resume and thought, every technical team at Cloudflare is going to be very jealous if I'm able to get this woman to be a returner. But it did take some encouragement for her to see herself going back into a technical role after being out of the workforce for a number of years. So I would say be really open to what you're capable of. Because I do find sometimes we kind of go back, or the returners are coming in with a very narrow point of view of what they think they're capable of. And trust me, you are capable of a lot more.
See, I knew you would catch my curveball. I had no worries. That was great. That was perfect.
I have 5 years experience with this, Tammy. It's been such a great program for us. So
I know it's definitely, we love it there. And Abby made a joke at the beginning about the rumored office at Cloudflare. There was a point where I felt like we might we'd have a badge, we come running in and out, we're doing workshops there. I'm like, we're practically Cloudflare employees at this point, right? This is all great.
Yeah, that is true. Yes, you're basically part of the team. We do view you that way. And we actually will go back to our offices. I know some companies are thinking, okay, we're all going to work remote for the rest of our lives. And that's not our approach. I kind of say the future is flexible. That's how I believe the future of work is a flexible approach. And so I see so many of you are here in the Bay Area. That's great. We have a large presence in San Francisco, but we also have offices in Austin and New York and Chicago and Boston, all around the US. And so the way that we've been thinking about coming back because I do think it's going to happen in 2021. It's just been a lot more flexible. So people coming into an office, a few days a week, maybe 5 days a week, or maybe only, working remote and only coming in when it's a special occasion. So we have a lot more flexibility. But so I'm really thrilled to see the geographic diversity here on the webinar, because Cloudflare has offices all over the US, and actually we're a global company. So over 1,700 employees and offices around the world.
Which is, and it really is, again, I keep coming back to when I first met with Michelle, and then a little while later met you, Janet. I'm almost positive, I'll have to check my notes. I'm pretty sure Cloudflare was 130 people when we started working with y'all. So
probably.
I feel like I've been there for the ride, and it's been super fun. Janet, thank you so much. That was great. So we're going to turn to the rest of our panelists. Who are folks working in the company. So we've got a couple of returners, we've got a manager, and a recruiter. So you're kind of going to get the whole 360 perspective. And I'd actually like to start with Eva, who is a manager in the program. And so I'm going to ask you a question similar to what I asked Janet, but obviously from your perspective, sitting at a desk, getting a job done. What are the qualities and skills? What are the things that you feel returners bring to your team?
Yeah, in my experience, I think what I really love about the program is the unique perspective that returners bring to the table. And I think when I look at a problem, returners often come with a different tool set, break it down to the basic principles, and have a really creative approach to problem solving. I had a TPM role, and we actually had somebody apply. We're a SaaS company from a medical device company, so very, very different approach. But she approached the problem solving skills so creative, and I love that. And another candidate that came from a very different industry too, so Colombian politics, something completely different. But the way that she approached problems was so great to see, so very, very refreshing.
Yeah, that's great. And actually, Eva, I should have had you introduce yourself first. So sorry about that.
No
Tell us
worries.
what is your job at Cloudflare? What do you do there?
So my background is actually also different. So I come from a supply chain background, also manufacturing, and I oversee IT planning and governance now, rolling up under IT.
Excellent. Awesome. All right. So I'm going to have our two returners introduce themselves and talk about what their experience has been at working at Cloudflare and doing a returnship and now working there. So I'm going to start with Kathy. Tell us a little bit about what you do at Cloudflare and your experience coming back to work there.
Hi, my name is Kathy. I am at Cloudflare as a solutions engineer, which means I work with our sales teams to talk to customers about their issues and if Cloudflare's products can solve them. I've been here a little over 2 years. I was a little bit odd in the return path because I didn't come in with a class originally because I started a little off schedule, but eventually I did get a class, including Purnima, and I've actually come back twice because I came through Cloudflare. I worked here for about 1.5 years, and then I took off maternity, and now I'm back again. So this is my first time on the panel since returning. So I want people to know that you will come back many times in your career, and you will start in many places. And if you have a really great supportive team and you have coworkers like Purnima, and it's a really great place to come and work and be.
Kathy, I love that. I'm so excited. It's a great testament, I think, to the company and the culture and to you. So I think that's great. Purnima, tell us a little bit about your job at Cloudflare and also your experience coming back to work there.
Yep. Hi, everyone. My name is Purnima. I've been with Cloudflare for a little over 2 years now. And like Kathy said, yeah, we both joined not in the same class, but a little off than the actual class that begins. And it's just been fantastic. I cannot stop telling you how much I love Path Forward. And I'm so glad that I found them because I feel like that was the only way I could have gotten a job. Like a lot of you, I'm sure you've been trying for jobs and you probably have been getting rejected or, not even getting calls or not even getting a reply. I was in the same situation, and Path Forward was like a great platform for me to, land this job. And working at Cloudflare has just been amazing. I don't feel like, I mean, right now, after 2 years, I can tell you that I don't feel like, I had such a long break in my career, and I feel so much more comfortable and confident. So I just have really good things to say about the company and Path Forward, and, how these 2 years have been for me. So I'm really happy.
It went by in like a hot minute, right?
It did. It did. It did. I mean, like, it was amazing. It was just
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. There's that riding a bike feeling like, oh yeah, I totally know how to do this. Yes, I totally know how to do this. Catherine, you are our resident recruiter, so I feel like that we can establish that. But would love to hear from you. What kinds of roles have typically done well at Cloudflare in the Path Forward program?
Well, I was actually looking through our system, and we have a variety of people that have been solutions engineers or technical program managers. But as Janet was saying previously, I really wouldn't get too hung up on what we have posted on the website. Just apply. You'll apply for roles, but we're looking at it closely with the hiring managers to see, like, wait a second, what about this experience? And just, if you're open-minded, it happens. I mean, we just hired a business operations manager, and originally when she applied, it was for a completely different role altogether. And now we're super happy she joined. So again, we've had tons of different roles, but I would really focus on, what you're interested in and sharing that with us so we can see if we can find a fit.
Yeah, that's great. I've always loved that approach. I think it's one of the things that I think Path Forward can help to teach employers is how to do that, right? Because you kind of have to think different about talent when you do these kinds of programs. And I think that's an aspect of our program that Cloudflare really gets in its DNA. Like it does that somewhat reflexively in a way that I think has been to the good. Eva, can you talk a little bit about, from the manager perspective, what kind of support people get when they come into Cloudflare as a returnee and a returnship, what that kind of process, what that piece of it looks like?
Sure. So as part of the onboarding process, we have almost like a week-over-week milestone plan with a returner. And we make an introduction to a body. So we assign like a body program and a mentor. And we also try to connect the returner to former returnees. So there's a different aspect that can be shared from the returner's perspective. And then we clearly define goals along the way, week over week, and some stretch goals later in the end. And really try to connect the returners to stakeholders that they will be working with on their goals. And I think the most important part is really the dialogue and to co-develop this, because every returner comes with a different unique skill set and a different strength. And discussing this and setting the returner up for success, there is a certain comfort zone that a returner has. And I think it's really important to discuss this and be honest about it and share this. This is where I feel a little bit more comfortable. I would love to talk to vendors. I've done that in the past. And so that's how we stretch it. And then on day X, which is different for every returner, we turn over the baton, and the returners, they lead projects independently.
Yeah, that's great. Abby Kelly, who many of you in the audience know from various events that we've run, is a person on the Path Forward team that works with managers at our employer partners. And I remember when she first started working with the folks at Cloudflare, every time she get off the phone, she turned to me. This was in the before times when we were in a real office. She turned to me and be like, I just love those managers at Cloudflare. I just love them. They're so amazing. All of them. I was like, yeah, that's really great to hear. So same question. I'll start with Purnima this time and then go over to Kathy Lee. From your perspective, what kind of support how did that look from where you were sitting? What was that support process like? How did it feel coming back into work at Cloudflare?
Sorry, I don't know why I wasn't able to unmute, but yeah. So I was really, really nervous to get back to work. And just to let you guys know that I had an 11-year break in my career, and I have never worked in this country. All the work experience I had was in India. And I got married and I moved here. And then I don't know what happened. 11 years just went by. And I was just scared. I would say, like, after 9 years, I really wanted to get back to work, but I was also really scared on how I would do it. I didn't want to, I still wanted to be there for my daughter, who at that time was just 2 years old. And I was like, maybe one more year, when she's 3 years old, I'll send her to daycare and then it'll all be good. And my older one had just started kinder. So, but then I just kept thinking of this, and 2 years went by again. And then when I finished 10 years, I was like, oh my God, like I really want to do something for myself. I felt like I was kind of getting a little bored and annoyed with the same routine. And I felt like I want to prove, I just want to prove and feel good about myself. And that's when I, spoke to my husband and I told him, like, I want to go back to work. And he was like, he was actually kind of used to me being home because I was doing a lot of this stuff, and he used to travel. He has a travel job. So practically he's never home. So I was the one who was taking care of the kids, doing all the chores, and everything was getting done. He was going to work and coming, and we were all set. But the fear, he did have the fear that, how what will happen if I get back to work? Like, what will happen if she goes to work? Um, but then we said, I decided that I'm going to just, give this a try. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Maybe it's something else that I need to do. And he really supported me. He said, let's go ahead and do this. And I'm telling you that I had to take support from him. My kids supported me really well. My parents came for the first year, and they were with me because I had a long commute. It was a new job. I was really anxious. I was anxious about the kids because I have always been there for them. It was a whole lot of stress, I would say. There was a lot of excitement, but there was a lot of stress too. At work, when I joined work, like, I got a lot of support from my manager. I have a great manager. I still have the same manager from the day I joined. I work for the tech support team here in Cloudflare, and the head of support is an amazing person. He's like, all he tells me is that I just made the best decision, hiring you through Path Forward. And he is all for Path Forward. Even like 2 minutes before I got onto this call, he just said, like, yay, I'm hoping we get to hire more people through Path Forward. So it's an amazing team. I feel like this company, I feel like they know what Path Forward is. They know the kind of people that come through Path Forward. So I feel like you get a lot of support from them. They're very understanding. They give you the time to, get comfortable with the role. And at any time, if you feel like, this is just too challenging, or, this is not something I was looking for, it's a we have a very open culture. Like, you can actually talk to your manager or, whoever you feel, and you can move roles in the company, and they're very supportive of it. So I
Yeah,
feel like
Purnima, I gotta tell you, you're getting a lot of chats, like people, and I love it because I feel like it is so relatable, right? I remember when I first met you, and it was like, these are all the things I was so nervous about. And I think, so if you're hearing something out there in webinar land from Purnima, this
It's
is
real.
the other side of Janet's advice. Like, go for it.
Yeah.
You don't have to be like that. You can do it too. So Kathy, what about for you? What was the support process like from your perspective, particularly with your managers, your team, like that kind of stuff?
So like Purnima, I wanted to state that I had a lot of support through the management chain for Path Forward. I was actually not the first returner. I was the second or third, but I felt a lot of pressure because I didn't want to be the one that like messed up and then we would never get another returner again. So there was that, but I at least knew I wasn't the first. And I know that a few people have questions in terms of how many people have been offered full-time roles. In my group, I believe we have 5 returners and they're all still here. 4 of us are women and 1 of us is actually a man. who was a caregiver. So I want to state too that it's not just all women too. I've actually met male returners too. So if you're out there and I want to know that, I want people to know that that's also available too. The way mine was the solutions engineering team is very diverse. We come from a lot of different backgrounds. So there wasn't an expectation that you're going to be ready to go in 3 months. They're very, they note that it takes about 6 months to ramp up. They want to know, where are you in 3 months so that you can ramp up within the first half a year. So for me, I was thrown in many ways through the same process as if I was a regular employee, but with the expectations that by that 3-month period, I would be somewhat similar to somebody else who would also be coming through. There was also an understanding that we didn't expect you to know everything, but we expected you to come in with an attitude that you could learn and you wanted to learn. So I think there was a lot of that. It was much more about being curious and just, putting yourself forward and trying your best. So I want to say for the record, that was also the expectation.
I think in my experience of the Cloudflare teams and again, working with Abby, like the managers do a good job setting that framework and understanding where you are in that trajectory, and the conversion rate at Cloudflare has been quite high. Like that, it is definitely a strength of people coming in. So Eva, let me turn back to you. What kinds of work do returners do at Cloudflare? And I don't mean that in literally what's the, what are they doing at their computer all day, but sort of is it working on day-to-day stuff? Is it working on projects? Kind of like, how do you approach as a manager, what kinds of, what you task them with for the time that they're with you during the returnship?
So I have to say, it always depends on the background. So we don't have like a cookie cutter approach where I say here's the project and it's written in stone and we're looking for the exact resume. Going back to Janet's point earlier, we're turning this a little bit upside down. So we have some flexibility on the project, but the project has, at least for my projects, always been business critical. And again, same approach here. We're looking at what tools and learnings do the returners need in order to be successful? And we're there along the way. And so whether this is like shadowing other team members or other trainings. So the work is business critical, and we work together in really what is the comfort zone on day one to make an impact early.
Yeah, I love that approach. I think that's right. So Catherine, given all that, could you give folks some advice in terms of how to set themselves apart as a candidate, kind of, some advice for how they could approach the interview process, some things that you've seen work well for folks at Cloudflare?
So how to approach the interview process? We definitely like to set you up for success. So, once we found out that we're going to be chatting with you, I will definitely be sending you focus points, so you can really hone in on what we're going to be covering. So it's just not out of the blue, but we're keeping in mind, of course, that, you're just coming back from taking a break of taking care of people, loved ones. So we wouldn't have just some rigorous, coding challenges for you per se. But again, you would be prepared with the focus areas I'd be giving you. I always recommend going to LinkedIn and seeing who's going to be chatting with you, so you can kind of see what they're doing at Cloudflare and their background as well. It just kind of familiarizes yourself with who they are and why they're going to be discussing what they're discussing. And then, again, I would say applying for, if there's only one role, that's fine. But if there's a couple of different roles, apply for a couple of different roles and reach out to us, because we can work through any questions you might have or any nerves you might have. I take those calls all the time because interviewing is nerve-wracking. Public speaking is nerve-wracking. All of these things, I'm nervous speaking right now, right? It's not an easy thing to do any of these things, especially interviewing. So just know everybody is in the same boat, and we are here to calm those nerves as much as we can, and listen to what those concerns are. We're all here to make it work and just be a smooth transition for you.
So Purnima and Kathy, and I'm going to start with Kathy. I'd like to ask you the same question from your perspective. Like, what were some of your what helped you, do you think, be successful in interviewing at Cloudflare? And what would be your advice to someone coming in?
Oh, I've answered this question, I think, in panels before, but
Yeah.
I would definitely say practice. I would say practice with somebody. I would say practice with somebody that's not your husband, because you don't want to have those arguments. Practice with some good friends who can actually be really honest with you. I would also say record yourself. It's very uncomfortable, but that way you can at least listen to pauses. That way you can form certain stories, and then you can actually hear yourself. And I think that's really important. And I'd also say, have some stories ready to go, have some accomplishments that you want to talk about, something you're particularly proud of. These things can apply across many, many different roles. And to Catherine's point, we're not always looking for a specific skill set, but we're looking for things like, oh, how is your problem solving when you're confronted with a difficult situation? How will you respond? And so I would say one of the things to definitely do is just to practice, so that when you go into that interview, that's not the first time you're hearing yourself.
Kathy, I love that advice. And I think it's something lots of people don't think to do because we think we don't think we're supposed to do that. But yes, that's great advice. Purnima, what about for you? What do you think helped you stand out in the interview process at Cloudflare? If you can remember 2 years back, it was like a million years.
Oh yeah. I love this question because I always talk about it during the webinars. So yeah, everything that Kathy said, I think is true. Just practice what you want to say there. And I would say, just be genuine. Don't make up stories. Say the real story. And I'm sure you've heard Tammy say this many, many times too. Practice your story, tell your story. You don't have to cover that 10-year gap. You want to talk about what you really did in those 10 years. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many certifications you did, or what other things you did online, or how you try. You don't have to be scared to cover that 10-year gap. All you need to do is, if you took care of your kids, you took care of your kids. If you took care of your parents, you took a break to take care of your parents. If you had an issue with a visa that did not let you work, then that is the real story. I think, at least at Cloudflare, I feel like I told my real story. I did not do a bunch of certifications to prove to anybody that I did not waste my time in these 10 years. I was doing all this or whatever. I told them I couldn't work because I had an issue with the visa. I couldn't work because I wanted to be there for my kids. I couldn't work because I wanted to, let my husband, because he had a travel job. And I just wanted to spend that time for X number of years raising my kids. But now I'm ready to get back to work. And now I'm ready to learn. And that's all they look for. They just look for the energy. They look for the enthusiasm. They look for, how willing you are to be able to take over that role, how well you can do in that role. So I think, just be genuine, just practice your story. And like Kathy said, just keep talking about it. I would even repeat the story in the bathroom. I would repeat it when I was driving with kids, or when I would just randomly, when I would go on a walk, I would just practice. I had 3 or 4 different stories, and I kind of knew that I could use these stories. And I feel like that's what Cloudflare at least looks for. They just want you to be genuine.
Yeah, and I think, and also remember that interviews are an opportunity to practice. I mean, you want to practice before you go in, right? Like, you want to do that, but everyone will get you better, right? Like, this is a process, it's a journey we're all on.
Yeah. And I think the practice is more because you're not used to going for interviews. I was waiting to get a call for an interview, so I never had the chance to practice. I'm telling you, it was Path Forward that gave me the chance. That's the time I only practiced. I still remember the seminar I went to and where Tammy spoke. I only remember that one thing where she said, tell your story, practice it. these are the only things I took from the seminar, and I went back. And I went with the thought that I thought, I'm ready to pay these people. They just need to give me a job, and then I realized that, oh, wait, it's a nonprofit organization. And, I was so amazed when I got to know the kind of things Path Forward does. So it's just amazing. So
if you only remembered one thing from that seminar, Purnima, you remembered the right thing. So good
Yeah.
job. That was great.
Yeah.
Eva, tell us a little bit about what it's like working at Cloudflare remotely, which was not previously a company that did a lot with remote, as I recall.
That's correct. Yeah. So about a year ago, it's 1 year now. I went to the office every day. But I have to say, we're really, really good. Cloudflare is really, really good at pivoting quickly. And to be honest, it's been a really great experience. So we mentioned earlier that Cloudflare is a global company. We're in many, many different locations globally. And we have people around the world. So there are also some smaller satellite offices. And now with the remote work, we're actually all on the same platform. So while we are all over the world, we have the same platform, and we still connect on chats and email. I have to say, chat is a little bit more than email now. So I feel like there is a switch now in terms of communication. Phone calls have come back. I love that. I missed having phone calls, just the audio. There are employee resource groups at Cloudflare too that have really, really great virtual events. And it was the latest one was the women's Flare event. So from AfroFlare, Green Cloud, Women Flare. We have virtual yoga sessions. So it's a different way of connecting. And I feel I personally feel I'm connecting more with some of the remote employees and locations that were prior satellite offices. So this has been really, really great. And actually last week, one of the things that I think could have not happened prior to that, one of our coworker, he took us on his cattle farm virtually. And so we all were on his FaceTime. So he had his phone and walked us through his cattle farm. And that was a really, really special time. So it's been good so far, but I'm also excited to go back to work and sometime in 2021 to see everybody face to face.
Yeah, I think we're all looking for a little bit more balance between the all at home all the time experience that we've had for the last year, or many of us have had for the last year. But I think that I think Janet's comment about the future being flexible, I think is all to the good. And Cloudflare's offices in San Francisco really are cool. I would enjoy hanging out there on a more regular basis. So, so I think that's great. Let me ask each of the returnees, what's the accomplishment you're most proud of from your returnship days? And I'll start back with Kathy and then go to Purnima. So the thing you did in your returnship that you're the most proud of.
Oh, wow. You're you're taking me back a really long time. I can barely remember. I would say that the thing I was most proud of in terms of coming back in the returnship, because I had about a 3.5-year break, not quite as long as Purnima's, was just proving that I could come back and that I could learn and I could readjust and I could move into a smaller company. I went from a very much larger company. And that I could do the work. And it just gave me like a really big boost in just like my own self-confidence in terms of like, okay, I didn't forget everything. I didn't forget the ability to learn, and I didn't forget the ability to work, in a tech environment. And I just, and it was also just really, really nice to come back into an office and have a new set of coworkers. And that was really great. And I also have to state that it was really great when we finally did get our Path Forward class. So that was also really nice to have that additional form of support. But it was just great to have gone through the whole process. And I was really grateful that I did get the offer and that I'm still here. But again, you know, just proving to yourself, like, I think there's a really big sense of, okay, I've done this, I've actually come back. Because I didn't actually know anybody who had come back from a long work break. And so it was kind of nice. I could tell that story now to other people. And I was very open that I was coming through Path Forward. And I still tell people that I came through Path Forward at Cloudflare.
I love that. Yeah, it's a good crew at Cloudflare. You should know if you're going into a returnship there. Purnima and Kathy are awesome. There's a bunch of other awesome people, also not on screen today, but it's a good crew there, and you all watch out for each other. I see that. Like there's a connection, even successive years. Like there is that bond and that common experience. Purnima, how about for you? What's your accomplishment that you're the most proud of?
Pretty similar to what Kathy said. I would say the biggest accomplishment for me is just feeling more confident, just just the fact that I was able to prove to myself that I could really get back to work after 11 years. And, I'm able to balance family and work so well. Of course, the family had to change a lot too, but, I'm just happy that we're all able to do this so well. And I must say, my kids actually told me one day that, Mom, you look a lot more happier when you go to work than when you were at home with us. I mean, they do miss me spending that time with them, but trust me, I felt like I was getting a little mad, just doing the same thing. And I really wanted to do something for myself. So I feel like that's one of the biggest achievements for me. And, they still ask me after 2.5 years, they still ask me, do you really feel happy to go to work? Like, you don't feel that happy to stay home? And I'm like, yes, because I love to work. I love what I do. I want to be able to do this. So, and I told them that I wouldn't be able to do this if it wasn't for you guys. If you guys were not, supportive, I wouldn't have been able to do this. So thank you. And then they're like, oh, okay. So, but I feel like that's the biggest achievement for me.
It's true, right? And a happy mom for a smaller amount of time is way better than a not happy mom all the time. I think that's just a general rule of life. And one of the first workshops we ever did, we were going around the room, and one of the women, her comment was, I like my children more now. And I thought that was a really great way of stating it, because I think you're saying it the opposite way. And what you're saying, Purnima, is, and they notice. Right?
They know
They
this,
know
yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
They see that.
And I feel like my relationship has changed too with them. Like, it's
good.
I mean, it's all a win-win for everyone. I feel like everything happened at the right time. And so I feel like I accomplished so much, just by getting back to work. Like everybody, even my husband says that, I feel really good helping you out. I really feel good to do so much, and he says that I can't imagine that, you were doing all of this. And I think that's the biggest
that's a big
achievement.
learning, right?
Yeah.
So let me, we're getting a lot of questions. So everybody wants to come work for Cloudflare now, obviously. So Catherine, I'm gonna actually throw up the slide we have, so you can walk through the process. And while you're doing that, hold on, let me share and where our screen is. Nope. This one, yep, there we go. And while you're going through this, Catherine, the other question you can answer alongside the overall process is about geography. So Janet mentioned the future is flexible. That's great. Like, are positions tied to specific geographies? Like, how should people think about that remote to home piece kind of thing?
Absolutely. We have definitely changed our view on things, as you keep hearing. There are some roles that are definitely tied to locations, like it has to be Austin for a specific reason, or it has to be the East Coast for a specific reason. However, now with more and more people being remote, the managers understand that. What we want to be aware of, though, is if a returnee is starting, we want to have the manager on the same time zone or in the same continent, because we want them to have that partner that they can ask questions, that they don't feel like they're just thrown into the middle of nowhere and now they're by themselves, remote already, and then they don't have somebody to talk to and ask questions. So we keep that in mind, but when it comes to like the geography, I wouldn't be as concerned with that. But again, we like to pair you up so you have a buddy, and it's just to make sure you're successful. And if you've taken anything, and there's so much to take from this webinar, please pay attention to that email versus the one I gave you, my personal email, which you could do that too, but returnships@cloudflare.com. Send your resumes here, and myself and the other recruiters and Judy will be looking through the resumes, you know, whether it's to a specific job or seeing where, you know, your skills might lie best with another role, and we can talk about that. But what the process is, it's always a little different. I don't have any of my roles up just yet, but what it typically is it's a call with the hiring manager, and then sometimes there's a follow-up call with somebody on the team, and then we go to the virtual on-site, where you'll probably meet with, I don't know, 4, maybe 5 people, 30 minutes to 45 minutes at a time. Don't get scared about that. That is the piece where I will send you an email saying, these are the people that are going to be chatting with you. Here are the focus areas. We're going to jump on a call and chat through it so you'll feel best prepared. But that's kind of it. And then after the virtual onsite, the decision's made. So it's pretty fast, from hiring manager chat to virtual onsite to ideally offer. And that's just kind of the step by step. You know, it's not a week-long thing. We want to make this fast. We don't want to make this painful. We want to get you in as soon as possible. But again, that's the email you want to remember, the returnships@cloudflare.com. And I'm always here, as well as the other recruiters, to help you with anything or any questions you might have. Honest to God.
Great. So, so people should definitely go to the careers page at Cloudflare, see what's interesting to them, apply, because that puts you in the system.
You got to apply.
Everybody has that sort of like, I don't know, the ATS, whatever. You want to be in the system. It's good to be in the system, right? That's where Catherine and the rest of her folks do their work. And make sure that you put Path Forward as the place that you heard about the job, right? That's a helpful piece as well. It'll kind of flag you up.
Good point, Tammy. Yes, you do want to apply on our careers page. That is key. But also, again, I like the email, because then you could follow up with me saying, Catherine, hey, this is what I prefer personally as a recruiter. Apply to the role or roles you're interested in. Then send me an email. I'll see it. If you send it to returnships@cloudflare, Judy will flag it. It will come to me saying, hey, I applied for the technical program manager. So I know to go to that right away, because so many resumes do come through. It is helpful to be pinged once you're in our system, and then we can work through there. But yes, applying first and foremost is the biggest part.
Yeah. And I am going to underline the bullet on here about remembering to make the gap on your resume clear. As our panelists have been saying today, this is what this is about. Cloudflare's into it. They get it. You heard from a manager, you heard from a recruiter, you heard from their chief people officer. They get it. It's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And make sure it is clear.
Make sure it's clear, because that's, you know, this is a program that they're committed to, and they want to bring folks in. So and then we'll also post some of the specific returnship opportunities, you know, things that managers are eager for. So those will go up on the Path Forward pages, and we'll send those out to you. But again, do not be afraid to just go straight to Cloudflare, check out what's on their careers page, and send in your information. And before I turn this off, so people don't freak out, you'll get this slide. We will send this to you. This will come in your follow-up package that you will get by the end of the week. And definitely use that email address. I know sometimes those kinds of email addresses can feel like, is that real? It is. We know. We've talked to folks there. It's a real address. It's going to somebody, but it allows a little bit of a bigger team to have coverage there, so they'll be better able to help you out. So.
And Tammy, just to jump in real quick. I know that one of the live positions we have now is a technical support engineer. More roles will be coming up, but that was just made live, so you know, pay attention to that one too.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. So we have a couple more minutes. So I'm going to throw you all in turn the curveball that I threw to Janet, because I think it's a good one. So starting with Eva, what is your biggest piece of advice for the people listening in today?
Apply. If you don't be scared. I know like it looks scary, and sometimes the job description as managers, we try to be very thorough, but it doesn't have to check all the boxes. If you're excited about it and that's something that you want to explore and test out, go apply. I know we talked a lot about the returnship email. Send it to them. We have other roles. I have roles coming up this year, and I would love to have a returner in the program. So don't be shy and don't be scared.
Kathy, what about you? What's your piece of advice?
I would say the same thing. Don't be scared, apply. And I think I saw somebody ask if you should do a cover letter. I did, and my manager did read it. So it also gives you a chance to explain a little bit, maybe about the gap or something that you wanted to say. So yeah.
The best piece of advice I ever got from a recruiter about cover letters, because I ask this a lot when we do recruiter panels, and his comment was, "Oh, I never read cover letters, except," and the except was a big one. And I thought this was really interesting. He said, if there's something about the resume that doesn't make sense, then I will go read the cover letter to see if the cover letter explains. And that can be, so a gap is one thing, right? Well, what were they doing, right? That's something that's not typical. So it's atypical, but it could also be things like being in a bunch of different industries or having switched careers or moving across the country, like just things that are like, I wonder what the story is behind that. Yeah. And he said, that's when I'll go read the cover letter. So the cover letter is kind of the opportunity to explain the things that don't fit into a resume format. Yeah. And I do think that's the exception to the rule. Catherine, what's your advice?
As we said earlier, to be open-minded, please be open-minded. You might apply for a technical support role, but if I see or a manager sees some experience on your resume and we're like, hey, what about this position? Know that we're trying to make something work best for you. So just be open-minded with what we have to offer and the roles that there are. And don't be scared. Don't be scared. Don't be nervous. We are here to make this work for you as best as possible.
Yeah, I love that, Catherine. I tell people that in general. Like, I think when you're returning to work, it's easy to kind of get yourself stuck in a place of like, it's got to be, right? It's got to be a certain level. It's got to be a certain this. It's got to be in that. It's got to be whatever. And you kind of get stuck. So I always tell people, like, there's lots of things out there. There's lots of opportunities. And I think in Cloudflare's case specifically, because I've seen this for 5 years, right? I've watched this process evolve and grow and all of that. And that ability to say, you know what you'd be good at is really, I think, remarkable and something that people should lean into and be open-minded to. Purnima, how about you? What would be your advice to folks?
Just like everyone said, don't be scared. Just be yourself, be genuine, just tell your story. Don't be scared to hide your gap. You don't have to hide your gap. Just go ahead and apply. Whatever you have had experience in the past, apply with just that. Just tell you all we need to see is, you're willing to learn, you're willing to, be a part of Cloudflare. Just show the enthusiasm. And like Catherine said that, we will figure out a different role for you. That was actually true. And that happened in my case because I actually wanted to apply for the tech support role, but I got interviewed for the solutions engineering role. And there was a point of time where I felt that, I think in the 4th or the 5th round, that I felt like, oh my God, I'm sorry, but I have no idea how to answer this question, or I have no idea how to code or go deeper into all the technical skills. And then they actually had a word with HR and the managers, and then they actually found another role for me. So Cloudflare will find a role for you. And if you want to apply to the tech support role, please do apply. Like I said, I work for tech support, and I would love to see you guys there. So yes, we're growing, and please apply. Don't be scared, and don't need to hide your gap. This is path forward. You have to show that you have a gap, and you need to prove.
It's bizarro world. It's the opposite way around.
It's the opposite.
That's what we like about it. Yeah. So,
and all the very best to all of them there who are and I was in the same boat too. I was as anxious as all of them are today in the webinar. So but trust me, you can do it. I mean, if I could do it, you could do it. So
Yeah, and I think, and Purnima is by far not the only person at Cloudflare who had a long break also. I know that's a question we get a lot. Can I really go back after? Everybody has their own number, right? Like, there are quite a few folks at
I had
Cloudflare.
someone else who works on my team as
Yeah.
well. She was the first Path Forward.
Yeah.
She was the first one who got recruited to Path Forward, and she had a 10-year gap too. So
Yeah.
it's amazing how we can all prove ourselves to do what we were doing before. So just be confident, just believe in yourself, and just go for it.
Yeah. Janet, I'm going to let you have the last word. And you've already answered the advice question. So I'd love to ask you, what is your favorite thing about working at Cloudflare? Like, what is it that, I know you got there because of Path Forward. And again, you're welcome. That's all good. But what keeps you there, right? That's 5 years later. You're still there.
My favorite thing about Cloudflare is that it's a high growth company. And so all of our growth means opportunities for everybody who works at the company. And so my favorite thing is watching the amazing and interesting career paths people take because we have those opportunities. So like, maybe you start in customer support, but then you move over to the product team. You start in sales and you move over to engineering. And I love that. I think we're exceptionally good at that. And so that's definitely my favorite thing. It's just watching people having the career of their dreams.
Yeah, high growth companies, it's hard to beat for the ability to, and not just advance, although advancing is part of it, but do different things. Like there is this just a sense of like, we can get people, oh, you want to try that? Oh, you want to move to another country? Oh, you want to, like, there's just a way in which that's possible in companies that are growing. I will say, having watched this company for 5 years, first of all, I think the culture is amazing. I think it does stand out among Silicon Valley companies as one that really, there's, I want to say this the right way. It's not a lot of flash and, but it's real. It's genuine. Like it's real. And you see that, I think, in these folks. And the other thing is the co-founder, Michelle Zatlin, is a mom with some young kids and, and is doing her thing. And, there's video out there for anyone who's interested when y'all went public, and she was at the New York Stock Exchange with her daughter and son up on the thing. And it just, again, there's a genuine culture there that is real and authentic, and wicked smart people doing crazy hard things that I can't begin to explain. I know they're important, but a real genuineness and warmth and cultural, just, yeah. So thank you everybody for coming out today. We really appreciated this. I'm so glad to get to spotlight this great partner. And Eva, we all want to come work for you now. Kathy, Purnima, we want to come work with you. And Catherine, Janet, thank you just for sharing all the great things about your company and your culture. And I think you're going to start to get lots of emails to returnships@cloudflare.com. So yay! All right, everyone, have a great day.
Thank you.